The First World War ended in 1919 with the Treaty of Versailles. This treaty, signed by the victorious Allied powers and defeated Germany, carried within it the seeds of future conflict. The terms imposed on Germany were undeniably harsh, designed to cripple the nation's ability to wage war ever again. Germany was forced to accept sole responsibility for the war, a bitter pill to swallow for a nation that felt it had fought valiantly. The treaty stripped Germany of significant territory, including Alsace-Lorraine, which was returned to France. Parts of eastern Germany were ceded to Poland, creating a corridor that separated East Prussia from the rest of the country. The loss of these lands, rich in resources and population, was a blow to Germany's pride and its economy. Adding to the humiliation, Germany was subjected to strict military limitations. Its once mighty army was reduced to a shadow of its former self, limited to a mere 100,000 men. The treaty forbade Germany from possessing an air force or submarines, effectively crippling its ability to defend itself. These punitive measures, intended to ensure lasting peace, instead sowed the seeds of resentment. The treaty created a deep sense of injustice and humiliation among the German population, a sentiment that would be skillfully exploited by extremist groups in the years to come. The Treaty of Versailles not only inflicted territorial and military restrictions on Germany, but also imposed massive financial reparations. Germany was held financially responsible for the immense costs of the war and required to pay a staggering sum of $33 billion to the victorious Allies. This burden proved to be an albatross around the neck of the German economy, hindering its recovery and pushing it towards the brink of collapse. The German government, struggling to meet these crippling obligations, resorted to printing vast amounts of paper money. This reckless policy led to hyperinflation, a situation where the value of the German mark plummeted at an alarming rate. The currency became almost worthless, wiping out the savings of ordinary citizens and plunging the nation into economic chaos. By 1923, the situation had reached a critical point. The exchange rate between the German mark and the US dollar stood at an astronomical 4 trillion marks to $1. People needed wheelbarrows full of money just to buy basic necessities. The economic fabric of German society was torn apart, leaving behind widespread poverty, unemployment, and a deep sense of despair. This economic turmoil had a devastating impact on the German people. The middle class, once a pillar of stability, was decimated. Workers saw their wages become meaningless as prices soared daily. This economic hardship created a climate of fear, frustration, and anger, making the population vulnerable to the seductive promises of extremist ideologies. The economic and social turmoil that engulfed Germany in the aftermath of World War I created a fertile ground for the rise of extremist ideologies. The humiliation of defeat, coupled with the crushing weight of economic hardship, left the German people feeling betrayed and disillusioned. They yearned for a return to strength, stability, and national pride, a yearning that opportunistic leaders would exploit. Among these leaders was Adolf Hitler, a charismatic demagogue who emerged from the political fringes to lead the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or Nazi Party. Hitler offered simple solutions to complex problems, blaming Germany's woes on a Jewish conspiracy and the weakness of the Weimar Republic, the democratic government established after the war. He promised to restore Germany to its former glory, to tear up the hated Treaty of Versailles, and to create a 1,000-year Reich where Germans would reign supreme. Hitler's message resonated with a population desperate for change. His fiery speeches, filled with nationalistic fervor and anti-Semitic rhetoric, tapped into the deep well of resentment that had been festering in Germany for years. The Nazis exploited the economic anxieties of the middle class, the unemployed, and war veterans, promising them jobs, security, and a restoration of national pride. As the economic situation worsened, the Nazis gained more and more support. They used propaganda, intimidation, and violence to silence their opponents and consolidate their power. The weak and divided Weimar government proved unable to stop them. And in 1933, Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany, marking a turning point in German history and setting the stage for the horrors that would follow. Hitler's rise to power in Germany marked a turning point on the road to World War II. Emboldened by his domestic successes and fueled by a toxic mix of nationalism, resentment, and expansionist ambitions, Hitler began to dismantle the Treaty of Versailles and assert German dominance on the European stage. He rebuilt the German military, reoccupied the Rhineland and annexed Austria in 1938, all in violation of the treaty, yet facing little resistance from the Western powers. The international community, scarred by the horrors of the First World War, was reluctant to confront Hitler's aggression. A policy of appeasement championed by British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain sought to avoid another devastating conflict by making concessions to Hitler's demands. This strategy, however, only emboldened the Nazi dictator, convincing him that the Western powers lacked the stomach for another war. Emboldened by his bloodless victories, Hitler set his sights on further expansion. In 1939, he invaded Poland, a move that finally shattered the fragile peace that had held since the end of World War I. Britain and France, their appeasement policy in ruins, declared war on Germany, marking the beginning of the Second World War. The road to war was paved with the broken promises of Versailles. The treaty's harsh terms, designed to cripple Germany, instead created a breeding ground for resentment, extremism, and ultimately war. The economic hardship, political instability, and national humiliation that followed in its wake provided fertile ground for Hitler's Nazi Party to flourish, leading to one of the darkest chapters in human history.